Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar. We're going to be talking about the opportunities for young lawyers in academia. And I'll just give a brief overview before we get into our speakers for the day. First, I'll introduce myself. I'm Elizabeth Musikali. I'm a partner at Dr. Musikali Advocates LLP, and I'm also a lecturer at the Catholic University of Eastern Africa. So we see that when most young people are pursuing the legal career, they do not envision a future career in academia. Most times, people usually look forward to a career in mainstream legal practice or even the corporate world. So academia for a long time is viewed as sort of like a career set aside for those who have more experience in mainstream legal practice and those who have conducted a lot of research. But right now, more young lawyers are getting interested in this field of the law. But most of them lack direction as to how to get into the system, how to grow in the system, and how to research and even maintain relevance. But we have a lot of emerging areas such as in election laws, sports law, entertainment law, and even in the use of technology, because everything right now is done digitally. So the voice of young people should be more heard in those particular areas. So this webinar will look at whether there's a place for young lawyers in academia and also young research. And if actually it's there, which opportunities are actually best suited for them, especially not just in their own countries, but regionally in the East African community. So we look at the process through which young lawyers can set foot in academia, how they can grow their career in academia, the challenges which they face, are they different from those the older practitioners in academia, and how do they overcome these challenges? Then lastly, we can also discuss how young lawyers can lend a voice in legal discourse concerning human rights and access to justice. So my co-host for today is Mr. Herman Tuhaire, who is a senior legal officer at the Judicial Service Commission in Uganda. So we'll be doing this webinar together. Now, for the other panelists for today, I will first introduce Dr. Grace Hill Muzukongira, who is the former Deputy Vice Chancellor of the University of Iringa. He's currently a lecturer of the law at the Catholic University of Eastern Africa, and is also a researcher at the Max Planck Institute for Comparative Public Law and International Law. We also have Dr. John Joseph Wamwara, who is a Kenyan lawyer and the acting dean and senior lecturer at Moi University. And he's taught at the University of Nairobi School of Law, at the Catholic University of Eastern Africa, and he graduated from Emory University Law School Center of the Study of Law and Religion with a Doctor of Juridical Sciences, an SJD. And he's also an advocate of the High Court of Kenya and a former legal officer with the ICRC at the Nairobi Regional Delegation. And he's worked for a long time with the Kenyan National Human Rights Commission and the Kenyan Parliament. And in addition to that, he's done a lot of work with regards to gender matters. And in terms of his education, he also graduated with an LLM in law from the Emory University Law School, and also with an advanced LLM in international humanitarian law and human rights from the Geneva Academy of International Humanitarian Law and Human Rights. And he has conducted a lot of research and has interest in projects international humanitarian law, law and religion, and human rights, and African traditional culture and religion, family law, and other general public international law aspects. So I'll pass this on to my co-host, Mr. Herman Tuhaire, to take over. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth, and good afternoon to all our panelists and all the people present in this webinar. You're most welcome to our discussion today on opportunities for young lawyers in the academia. As already introduced, my name is Hamad Hire, and thank you, Elizabeth. We are happy to have the different panelists with us. Maybe I'll just briefly ask a question that any of the panelists is willing to answer that will kick us off. What is academia? What is it all about? Because when we talk of academia, many people think that you're talking of people going to law school and then they graduate and then they teach, as they do other things. But sometimes we need to understand when we talk of young lawyers in the academia, what exactly do we mean by the academia? Is it just going to class and teaching? Is it, researching? Is it putting out books? Is it having blogs? Is it going to other, is it going for conferences? What exactly is academia about? But maybe before any of them answers it, just for the benefit of our attendees, on the panelists today are Dr. John Joseph Wamwara, I think has already been introduced. We have Dr. Dennis Bikesha. We have Dr. Graciu Mbuzokogira. And we have Achilles Romwad. They will be, telling us more about themselves, I believe, as and when they are given an opportunity. So I don't know who'd like to kick us off with telling us what is academia all about? What do we mean by the academia? Dr. Wamwara, would you mind kicking us off with that?
Good afternoon, everyone. Sorry, I'm currently out of, I'm not in Kenya right now, and I almost confused the times, but I'm glad I have 1 hour now. And therefore then I want to ask to leave just before 3, the Kenyan time, or East African time. Now, what is academia? It's like we are back in class and being asked serious questions. Academic, for me, that's my understanding of academia. Any space where learning takes place, I would consider that academia. And it doesn't have to be a law lecturer standing and speaking before students. But I also think that those who are involved in strictly research and publishing are also in academia. And of course, when you are at the Kenya, it doesn't have to be the universities. It can also be at the Kenya School of Law. It can also be at the Tanzania Law School or LDC in Uganda, and many others in the other East African community. So then academia would be, yes, traditional institutions that teach, but also research and think tanks that are involved in research and creation of knowledge and dissemination. That would be my take on that, Sir Herman. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Maybe let me also ask Dr. Reza to tell us his view. What do you understand by the academia? When we talk of academia, what is it exactly? Okay, sorry, Dr. Dennis Bikesha, maybe you could guide us on that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. First of all, I'm happy for this invitation and the discussion that has already started. Dr. John has really made it, but I wanted to help those who are participating to summarize what he has said and maybe what I think is right in 3 activities. So academia to me means something that goes with the teaching and learning, which is mainly the big aspect of academia. But it also deals with the research, and then it deals with the scholarship. So in my view, when you consider 3 aspects, teaching and learning, research, and scholarship, which goes with publication. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Dr. Reza, would you like to add on something before we probably move on to another question?
No, I think Dr. Bikesha has outlined what I think would be a good summary of academia. Maybe in addition to the scholarship, which is about writing and contesting existing ideas or producing new knowledge, then we can talk about the exposition of that information that is not only in the classroom, but also in other spaces where it is most needed. So I would think academia involving the teaching and learning or education, research, then producing that research, and then I would also add to that the way we expose that research, the way we dispense that research, not just in the classroom, but the rest of the world as being parts of the academic study. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, doctors, for telling us what the academia is all about, because, sometimes we presume that it's straightforward, everyone knows what academia is all about, but thank you for the clarification. Maybe now let me ask, why would one pursue a career in the academia? Why should a young lawyer pursue a career in the academia? For what purpose? What does it serve? Why should a young lawyer venture into the academia? The long hours, you've talked of, research and scholarship, teaching. Why would a young lawyer be inspired to now, not focus on, corporate law or, legal practice or litigation? Why would you encourage a young lawyer to focus and, look into the academia? I don't know who would be willing to take a lead on that.
I don't mind going first, Haman, and thank you very much also for the question. Probably in answering that question, people might have as a chance to speak their journey. And for me, I decided to become a teacher because I thought that my teachers in undergrad did not do me justice. I thought I deserved more. I deserve more of their time, I think. I think I also deserved more of their care and mentorship. I didn't find it when I was going in undergrad, and probably thought that is how all lecturers are, until I had the occasion to study elsewhere. And I thought, and I saw that people did differently. People acted differently towards the students. And I think I just thought then that I deserved more, and I wanted to do better. Because for me, anytime I am in class, I know that in that class, there are people who are going to be greater than myself. Because that's the truth. Anytime we step in class as academics, as professors, we must understand that ours is not the standard of excellence. It may have been a standard of excellence during our time, but we are facing different times and with new and different exciting challenges. So for me, anytime, and that's why I have chosen to stay in academia. It's so much rewarding to see you put ideas into the minds of young people, and that you see them take up those ideas and run with them. I think that's nothing. There's nothing more rewarding than that. Yes, the reason why I wanted to be a lecturer was to be a better lecturer, better than the people who taught me in undergrad. and even later in grad school. I think that has always been, because I think students deserve more of a lecturer's time. They deserve more of a lecturer's compassion and mentorship. So yes, that's why I became a lecturer, and I've stayed as a lecturer because I think I have a chance to impact and to make possible, at least make my students see the possibility that there are with not just the study, but also the practice of law. Thank you, Herman. Back to you.
Thank
Can
you,
I go
Dr.
next?
Omar.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sorry, just one moment. I just want to say that when someone saw me talking about this webinar, they saw Dr. Omar and they said he had taught her jurisprudence at University of Nairobi. And she was saying you're a very good lecturer. So thank you for your contribution. Okay, we'll have Dr. Bikesha and then Dr. Mbuzu Kogira will also answer why academia. Thank you.
Yeah, I have a few points to add on what my colleague has mentioned. In the first place, I consider through the experience I have, through what I see with my colleagues, one important thing that young lawyers, not young lawyers in age, maybe in the field, is development of their expertise. We have young lawyers who are working, but they are not known by the society in their area of expertise. And when you go to academia, that's the first thing the academia will build in you. What are you specializing in? In fact, the first thing, like when you are recruited as a tutorial assistant, you should be in position to enroll for a certain specific area of law, and then you will be groomed in that area so that you become an expert. We have people that you may find, for example, they are experts in tax law, they are experts in the corporate in general, they are experts in the criminal law. So this is why I think young lawyers should be interested in academia so that they master a given area of their interest. But the other important thing is that when you are in academia, of course, you have freedom in choosing research clusters. You know, research clusters, you can be practicing something, but you also need to carry out research so that you master what you are doing. And one of the ways of mastering these things is to get involved in research. And it is known that when you are in academia, as the saying goes, you carry out a research, you publish, and if you cannot publish, so they say, you have to perish. So you either publish or you perish. So, and you, in the course of publishing, of course, you are getting much more knowledge in your area. And it is in academia that you will be getting all the opportunities that can make you a researcher and can sustain your research endeavors. But in academia also, it is an area where you get access to many sources of knowledge, including international and national conferences, workshops like this one, trainings, and in the conferences where you are supposed to be presenting, where you are supposed to be participating as the someone who has been invited. All this is additional knowledge to what you have. But when you are not in academia, it is not very easy that someone, for example, is going to give you ample time to participate in these conferences, especially international conferences, workshops, and even trainings. The other important thing I think that is very important in academia for young lawyers is that it is also an area where we get more theory that we may be interested in practicing They are advocates, for example. I know advocates for, like at my School of Law, we have people that are teaching, but at the same time, they can go to courts. If you don't have that opportunity, there are emerging areas of law that you may not know because you don't have enough time to access new knowledge. Especially like if you have studied and something has come after your studies, most of the time it is tricky. You may not get enough knowledge about it. We are talking of these days, there is, for example, cyber crimes. You can imagine if you are in a case that involves you and you want to know about, for example, cyber crimes, and you have not gotten an opportunity to carry out a research to get new knowledge about it. So it becomes cumbersome for you when you are in such a situation. But there is something that I think should also be interesting to young lawyers. You may be doing well wherever you are, but when you are involved in academia, I see it as an element of giving back to the community. And in fact, like in our universities, giving back to the community is one of the elements that an academia has to put in mind when you sign a contract. For example, you are given 3 responsibilities, that is teaching and learning, research, and even giving back to the community. So if you have the knowledge and you want to give back to the community, again, it is given in terms of writing. You can have your piece in a journal, you can have your piece in blogs, which I think is also a very good thing when such things being done by young people, because they have to go with the modern society and they are even getting new information, new knowledge. There are some other points that one would mention given time, but in summary, a young lawyer who is at the same time in academia is getting more in academia.
Wow, thank you, Dr. Vikesha, for that very elaborate explanation, and maybe for that encouragement, that word of encouragement to our young lawyers out there. Dr. Mbuzukongira, Mbuzukongira, I don't know how to pronounce that name. It is, let me invite you to say something about that. Why academia? Thank you. You forgive us about the name, really.
Just unmute.
It's good to see you, sir. We can't. I can't hear Daktari. Daktari, can anyone else hear him?
No, I can't hear him either. I can't hear him.
Having challenges too.
You are unmuted. Could you check if you are muted the whole phone, the whole laptop? Probably if you muted the whole laptop, we will not be able to hear you.
Right, probably as Dr. Mbuzukongira gets his laptop sorted, I can formally introduce our 2 other speakers, who are Dr. Vikesha and Dr. Ruweza. At the point which you started, I did only introduce Dr. Amwara and Dr. Mbuzukongira, but to familiarize the rest of our members with the panelists, Dr. Ruweza is a Ugandan and UK-trained attorney and lecturer at law. He's also a Commonwealth scholar and a practitioner of the law, and he's enrolled as an advocate of the High Court of Uganda as at October 2003. And he's on a mission to bring transformation to the nation of Uganda by raising a generation of 10 million young people who honor God, their families, and the nation. So probably Dr. Ruweza will tell us a bit more about that. And he's also a blogger, a nationalist, a nature lover, and an author, and a board member of the Christian Advocates of Africa Association, the president emeritus of the Uganda Christian Lawyers Fraternity, where he also served as the chair of the board of directors. And he also served as the chair of the Committee of Rule of Law and Strategic Litigation of the Uganda Law Society, and represented the Uganda Law Society on the Committee on Legal Education and Training on the Uganda Law Council. Additionally, he's a member of the East Africa Law Society Committee of the Rule of Law. And he's the head of department and of law and jurisprudence at the School of Law at Makerere University, where he teaches constitutional law, international law, treaty law, and the law of evidence. He's also an adjunct professor at the Uganda Military Academy. So welcome, Dr. Ruweza. He'll be giving us a perspective on academia in Uganda. And our last panelist is Dr. Bikesha, yes, who holds a PhD degree from the University of Dar es Salaam School of Law. And he received both his LLB and LLM degrees from the National University of Rwanda in 2004 and 2010, respectively. He's an alumnus of the School of International Training, based in Vermont, USA, where he obtained a postgraduate diploma in conflict resolution and peace building. He also holds a diploma in legal practice from the Institution of Legal Practice and Development in Rwanda. And he is the Dean of the School of Law at the University of Rwanda, where he also teaches constitutional law and transitional justice systems, amongst other courses. So he's also a member of the High Council of the Judiciary, as well as the High Council of the National Public Prosecution Authority of Rwanda. And he has published and presented various papers in the area of constitutional law and transitional justice. Dr. Bikesha is here representing academia in Rwanda, while Dr. Mbuzukongera will be talking about academia in DRC in as much as he can also give us a perspective on Kenya. And Dr. Omara will be representing Kenya as well, right? We had another panelist, as you saw in the flyer, but he's unwell and unable to join us today. So I hope Dr. Mbuzukongera has been able to log in properly. Right, I still cannot hear you.
Can I be heard now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
I don't know why.
But Dr. Gracia,
Elizabeth, can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Yes.
We hear you.
Okay, I will have to change the gadget. Elizabeth, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear
We hear
you. Yes.
Let me phone.
Right. We can probably continue with the rest of the questions, and then we'll get back to Dr. Gracia. Kindly, Hammond.
All right. Thank you, Elizabeth, for further introducing the speakers. I believe we are now on board with who the different speakers are. So, oh, by the way, also to recognize that we are also on board with the CEO of the East Africa Law Society, Mr. David Sigano. He's also logged in. Maybe he'll say something later, but he's also logged in and present. So thank you, panelists, who have told us basically what academia is and your motivations. Dr. Amara has said that some of his lecturers didn't do a good job. I hope they are not listening. Otherwise, they they may never forgive him. You know,
I have told them. I was a member of the faculty, and I told them. So there's no.
You told them, yes. They may not forgive you. They may think, you know, look at this doctor. Anyways, thank you. So maybe now my next question is, how does one join the academia? yes, we know what the academia is. We've realized that it's, you know, it's more than just going to class and getting a piece of chalk and leading people. How does one join the academia in our different countries?
If I may, just
yes,
to share very briefly, I think
yes,
it's
Doctor.
important that I too share that the reason why I joined the academia was because I was dissatisfied with the law as is. I had practiced law for a while, and I realized that there are certain areas within the law where we had become more like court clerks, you know. You want to register a trademark, fill in the form, put in the piece of paper that has the representation of the trademark, and file it in. You want to apply for bail, you know, you are held up by precedent. You can't think beyond or outside that precedent. And so for a while, I was a bit dissatisfied with certain aspects of the law, and also to realize that the law is actually what the practitioner thinks it should be, you know. So you have all these schools of law as seen in jurisprudence and how they play a big role in society, you know. If you have a judge appointed by, say, a Republican-leaning politician, that judge is going to perform or to roll in a certain way, vis-a-vis a judge that is maybe appointed by a Democrat-leaning politician in the United States. They too will rule and decide in a certain way. So there is that whole politics behind the law that we practitioners tend to have limited say in the way it should go. And yet, there was a tendency for most practitioners to keep citing authorities on the law. You know, when you look at the International Court of Justice, one of its sources of law are jurists, you know, publishers, put it in another way, academicians. So in the academia, you tend to have more leeway, more freedom to contest the law and to challenge the law, to be able to speak truth to power, to be able to challenge decisions of the highest court of the land in ways which no practitioner would probably have an opportunity to do so. It gets even more interesting when you are both a practitioner and also an academic. So that really got my blood excited when I was joining the academia. But two other things. One, mentorship. So unlike Dr. Wamwara, I was told by the best of the best, you know. My lecturers really excited me about the law and how it is done. Their teaching styles were varied. Some were quite brief, while others were quite detailed in their approach to the teaching of the law. Some would take us to go researching, while others would give us the information. I had, you could call it a buffet of education, legal education, and that really coupled with mentorship. You know, lecturers who persistently look out for you, give you opportunities for clerkship, internship, you know, call upon you even when, you know, they should not have, but they seek you out and say, hey, we see you're an active student and we want to push you even a step further. No wonder I ended up teaching with them right now. And lastly, I think academia gives us the unique opportunity to contribute to society in ways which the ordinary practitioner may not necessarily do. My first years in legal practice was really a 7 to 10 p.m. Job of filing court documents and preparing pleadings. Most of you know the works, and hardly any socialization at all serve on Sunday mornings when we'd go to church, and then you'd have no life after that because you have that farm meeting on a Saturday morning, etc., etc. But with academia, you get to have an opportunity to inspire young minds, and so you can proudly sit back when these young minds that you challenge start doing amazing things, controversial things, of course, some of them, but they start speaking out, they start challenging the status quo, they start improving the law in ways that probably I would not have done if I was just one lone cowboy in the wild, wild west. But you have a bigger group of proteges who are beginning to challenge the different angles of the law, looking at things differently, working in reform, working in parliament, and you get that sense of pride that I had a contribution into their way of thinking, into their way of doing stuff. And then you get to be invited to forums such as these, where if I was basically handling bail applications and defending criminals, you probably will never have called me to speak to the different East Africans that are here right now. But you get to contribute to society in many ways, appearing on national TV and radio talk shows to engage with those who hold the gadgets of power and help them see the middle line between their extreme views. So I think academia for me has been that space whereby I can truly be myself. I can write what I want, like Steve Biko said, and challenge those I think I can challenge, and also be humble enough to listen to differing views and know that their opinions do count. And so when you write, you get to acknowledge the amazing amount of wisdom that is out there, and you can make a small contribution to what is in existence. Thank you very much.
Wow, thank you so much, Dr. Rweza. We are truly inspired. By the way, it goes without saying that Dr. Rweza is one of the people who has inspired very many young lawyers in Uganda, myself inclusive, though I don't know if I still qualify as a young lawyer, but anyways, I'm one of the people you've inspired over the years. Now, the voice of the people is the voice of God, and someone is saying that Dr. John Wamwara should be the one to lead in answering the question since he's about to leave. How do you join the academia? How do you join the academia? Thank you.
And thank you, Herman. Is there anything else that you really look through your list and see if there's any other question you really wish me to address? Others can come back to it. Is there anything else you want me to address? Because I want to do it once.
Maybe the new and emerging areas. How do you in academia always keep up with new and emerging areas? How do you ensure that you're up to date with the areas that keep coming up once in a while? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Jacqueline Hinga, and I have a new name, Dr. Mwahara. But anyway, does anyone get into academia? I want to ask you to if I was recruiting as a new member of my faculty, this is what I would ask. One, do you love knowledge for the sake of it? One. Number two, do you have a burden for people? Do you have a love for people? And number three, are you excited by brilliance and are ready to be challenged by other people? Then if that is you, then I would ask you to join academia. I think the law is not a very easy profession, and therefore if we get people who really don't care about the interest of others, if it is for you, it's a learned profession, and there are very few learned professions. Law generally is a learned profession, but even more learned is the thought of getting into legal academia. like ministry, you need to be convinced of whatever it is that you want to do, whatever it is that you choose to get involved in. And I think you have to really seriously be interested in the affairs of people. Have an interest to advance, have an interest to want to keep learning, because and now I want to marry that with emerging issues. One of the things that I think any law practitioner, but particularly anyone who is teaching law, must realize that a lot of the things we teach them, I teach students at law school, by the time they get out of school, those things are no longer law. And therefore then, just as some of my good lecturers told me then, that we don't teach you the law, we only teach you where to find the law and how to apply your mind to the law. And so that if you also wish to, you have an interest in getting to keep learning, so that you don't teach people contracts law with the notes that you were taught contracts law in 1992 or 8 when you were in school, then this would be a place for you. In Kenya, for example, today, you could get in as a graduate assistant. There are some places where some universities that offer opportunities for graduate assistantship. I particularly can name Strathmore Law School. You may not be teaching, but you can help students prepare for moot courts or help lecturers with their research. But eventually they link you to opportunities for masters. And then you with masters, you can now come in either as teaching as a tutorial fellow or assistant lecturer. And then, of course, finally, you hope to climb the ladder and become a lecturer and ultimately a professor of law. That is the path the path to academia in Kenya. But I also know that there are also some universities that also just advertise for researchers. And so graduate researchers and then senior researchers. And you may not be teaching law, but you are in academia, you are teaching elsewhere. And I also want to ask that even as we East Africans, I want to ask you to remember that we are a part of the Commonwealth. And part of the Commonwealth, our laws throughout the Commonwealth is not too different. And therefore, then let us open our eyes to the possibilities that we can both practice and teach law throughout the Commonwealth, so that you are in Kenya, think about practicing in Ghana or in Canada or in the US. There are certain places in the US where you don't even need to have a master's degree from there. As long as you have a degree from Commonwealth, you could sit at their bar and practice in these places. So I think these are not just practice, but also teach in these places. So think about possibilities of what is required in your state. Does it require a PhD? If it requires a PhD for you to lecture in that place, then you must order your steps towards ensuring you get a PhD. The last thing I want to ask you is, please be speaking with your lecturers. A lot of these people have opportunities. They can point you to the direction. Some of them can even take you in as their research assistants, even as they help hold your hand towards a career in academia. And Daniel has told us that he had a very good lecturers who held his hand. And I also think there are also now and even during my time, there were good lecturers that could direct us in towards those ends. The last part of this question, and this is what I want to finish with, is how do you keep up with the changes in law? I think in most jurisdictions, there's a requirement for periodic review of curriculum. One, to look at market trends and have the curriculum reflect those changes in the market. But I think that especially with COVID-19 and the reality of the online court, a lot has changed. Currently I teach ICT law, and I tell my students that the future of law and a lot of the areas of the law that we study now, traditional areas of law, will change. The reality of the ICT revolution will change law in every way. So that I ask that, and I urge everyone, think towards developing capacities in these areas. Human rights is a wonderful thing. I have a master's in human rights and humanitarian law, but I think we have a good number of people who have graduated, who have had masters in human rights. I want to ask that we think about interdisciplinary study of law. For example, think about law and something else, probably law and political science, probably law and at the master's level, so that interdisciplinarity becomes a reality in our area. That's where the world is headed. Otherwise, I wish all of us all the best. I hope I get another opportunity sometime soon to, when I don't have to run. I'm attending a fellowship at Oxford, and I have to present a paper in the afternoon. So then that's why I have to go. But thank you very much, Herman. Thank you very much, Elizabeth. And thank you very much, David. David was, I think you were an any of our school, yes. David Sigano was one of us, I think, at Moi University School of Law. So we are very proud. If I am right, I think I am right. We are proud to make serious, to train serious lawyers that have contributed to the change that we see in the East African region and beyond. Thank you very much, Asanteni Sana. Uganda, I would say Webale Nyo. And in Rwanda, I would say, Vikesha, help me now. And in every Asanteni.
Murakoze cyane.
Yes. Thank you very much, and all the best. I hope this is recorded. Herman, you could share with me afterwards. If there are any questions to me, you could direct them. I can answer them directly to whoever asks. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Amara. As of now, I don't see any questions directed to you, but as I believe as and when they come in, we'll be sharing.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much for sparing the time, despite the fact that you're overseas and you're attending a very prestigious fellowship. Thank you for sparing the time to speak with us and to inspire us. Maybe that's another advantage you could also talk about of being in the academia, the opportunity for you to travel the world presenting papers at Oxford and things like that.
And other places.
Yes.
You can share my details with whoever wants, and we can always discuss any opportunities we have. Let us share so that we are well informed, and also whatever opportunities I have, they are there for me to share with the rest. That's how we grow. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you, Mwalimu. Asanteni sana. I believe that is what you'd say if you are back home in Kenya.
That is it.
All right. Okay. I hope Dr. Mvuzukongira is now back online. Maybe we could hear from him. How do you join academia? Let's hear his views. Prof, are you online?
Yes. Thank you very much. Yes, I hope you can hear me now.
Loud and clear.
Thank you. I had to switch and come back to the phone, which I think will help us to share a few ideas. I will agree with everything. I will agree with everything that my predecessors have said. I will disagree with one aspect, respectfully though. every one of us, I think, have had a student or a former student lamenting that things that we study and things that we practice are or could be different. And from the few years of service, I would say, actually, I would plead with what you are calling young lawyers. I still do not understand what a young lawyer is. on a soft note, though, I would plead that if we could get, actually, it is us who are mainly in the academia, to plead with the practitioners to not separate the academia. The concept of legal scholarship is not limited exclusively to what you would call purely academicians. That's not the idea. The concept of legal scholarship is understood as a scholarship which actually is at the mutual, at the juncture of those who are devoting more time into research and those who are devoting more time into practice. We come together. This is what we are advocating. And until we do that, we will continue producing students who will keep on lamenting that things that we study and things that we practice actually are different. So now, and I hoped that actually the legal career is the perfect example that one could use, because if somebody is practicing today and is given a class, I do not see how and why they should produce students who would still see a gap between what they were taught and what they are called to practice. Absolutely. I agree with my good friend Omara. Law is changing, not for the purposes, I'm not saying this for the purposes of advertisement, but even if it could be advertisement, before the end of this year, probably my book on air law will be out. But forget about air law per se, because the intention was to venture even in outer space law. We are seeing what is happening now. God forbid. But would there be a nuclear depot somewhere in the outer space? And at this age of conflict that we didn't think could happen, we are asking ourselves if it is a possibility, and this is not science fiction, if somebody is storing nuclear weapon somewhere else, not on this earth, when this person gets pissed off, it's a possibility that we could reach the end of the world. It's a possibility. And these are kind of questions that will keep on popping up. We need to stay in research, and we need to marry. I liked it when the predecessor, the previous speaker was articulating on this. We need to marry the concept of legal scholarship and understand it. I know the dichotomy that there is. You'll say that no, people who are in practice, they maneuver so well with procedural laws, and those of us who are too much into the library will do well with substantive laws. I really tend, to a certain extent, not to give too much attention into that, and in the sense that I will be a voice to advocate that we have more of union, that people who are what you call young lawyers would find interest. Actually, it is a must that they find interest into passing on the knowledge that they have, but also benefiting in terms of research and publications, and that is what you call the academia. Now, speaking of opportunities, I want to share this with you openly. I do not know how many times I've forwarded the course outline of the East African Community Law to my colleague professors in the DRC, and which has recently joined the East African Community. Talk about opportunities. Now, those are the opportunities that are there for any young lawyer. We need to now start thinking beyond what you would call the borders. And obviously, I say this, none of my students is probably here. These things of languages and other, so to speak, barriers actually are not barriers. I want to encourage colleagues in this forum that, well, jump into the waters and you will know how to swim. You won't die. You will make it. Some of us who have thought that have the disadvantage of moving countries, you all of a sudden come from Goma, you find yourself in Frankfurt, you do not know how to say Guten Tag, and you see it, excuse my language, as a curse. Later you come to understand how much of a blessing it was. So some of these we consider as barriers are really not barriers. And I think I will have the opportunity to speak again. For me, it will be to encourage, actually, to request young lawyers to develop interest into combining. It's not about leaving the profession and coming into the academia. It's having the two. It's having the two, and the combination that we are seeing coming out of that actually is very, very amazing. The moment I was still chairing the recruitment commission, I would ask any candidate coming to the commission, what is it that you are bringing that you didn't see when you were in school? And this one came out nearly all the time, at least with the Faculty of Law. So for now, let me interrupt to give an opportunity to other speakers, but I see meaning, and I have to appreciate when I received the invitation. I want to disagree, of course, with Elizabeth. The idea of thinking that the academia is reserved to these very highly knowledgeable minds, sharp, who understand the concept, actually is an intimidation, and we should not give in to that. I do not know that there is a mind which could claim to know it all. This should not be construed as lack of respect to my senior. No. I'm saying this in humility. But even if you say there are people who really would understand their ways in international law, how did they start? So I want, again, to encourage young lawyers, don't be intimidated by that. And it's not a field which is devoted to people who read too much, who have studied, have published. First time they wrote something, it was not acceptable. It was not acceptable. I wish my supervisor could be here to tell you the first piece he read of me. It was as rubbish as any rubbish can be. Something you can't read. You good for garbage. But the persistence and the stubbornness, and then you improve. So do not leave the academia to people with white beard. No. That's not the point. It's open for you, and the time to come in is now. Don't you wait until when you are at the eve of your retirement in the legal practice, then you convert yourself, you come to the academia. I would strongly encourage, because this is what will give you the opportunity to research and to get into it and to do both. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Gasho. Thank you for also demystifying that this is a career that's reserved for the older people. I guess you preempted the next discussion. But before we get into that, I'd like to encourage members to ask any questions they have to any of the panelists on the chat section or the question and answer section. But what we're going to talk about next are the challenges that are facing young lawyers in academia and how to overcome them. I guess Dr. Garcia has preempted that conversation. And before we go on, you had asked about the definition of young lawyers. I believe that is advocates who are who have not practiced for more than 5 years, I guess, and who are below the age of 35. Sigano can probably correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that is the criteria of joining the young lawyers or being a young lawyer in the Law Society of Kenya. But Sigano can also let us know if that is the same generally within East Africa. So I'll throw this back to the panelists, where we're talking about the challenges facing young lawyers in academia. What are they and how do you overcome them? So probably you can tell us about your experiences and yes, how you overcame them. We can start with Dr. Bikesha and then we'll go on to Dr. Ruweza.
All right, thank you so much. As you have mentioned, the previous speaker has commented on this. There is a number of challenges, of course, that we may find in the area of academia. And to begin with, it's not a highly paying job when you are in academia. Many people in academia are getting low pay. And of course, when I'm a young lawyer, as you have mentioned, I didn't know you mind much about years. I was minding about maybe when you got your degree. If you got your degree when you were 35, I would call you a young lawyer because it shouldn't be a question of age, but maybe a question of when you become a lawyer. And when you become a lawyer, of course, you need to make sure that you attain something and you are beginning your economic development. And then you go to academia, which is not a well-paying area. So it becomes a very big challenge to young lawyers. And of course, how could this be mitigated? I think like building on the experience in Rwanda. In fact, again, academia would be understood as teaching in most cases. And it has been a problem of teaching in general in Rwanda, beginning from the people that are teaching in primary, secondary school, and then to the university. But for example, I'm happy, like today I had yesterday, in Rwanda, I wouldn't say young, the level of primary teachers, the level of secondary teachers, for example, in primary teaching authorities, they have made sure that they added 88% of the salaries of primary school teachers and 40% on the salaries of secondary school teachers, which is a good indicator that maybe even with universities and the other tertiary institutions, there may be something to be added. So that would be to mitigate the challenge, but never shall we find an academic that is being paid highly. What is usually done is that, again, there is freedom in academia. So maybe people are expected in topping up what they earn at the end of the month. but also it needs these opportunities to be in place. If, for example, there are research grants for people to research and publish, then the amount of money you may get from the research, from the consultancies, would be additional to what you get as your salary. And that one would boost maybe someone as a young lawyer who is interested in academia and who wants also to develop economically, who goes to the market and can get something to buy, a bread and the food for home consumption. The other challenge, like building on Rwanda, what Dr. Gracier has mentioned, I think there is, I don't know the extent of the young lawyers who seem not to be confident in legal knowledge. It is a small number, like in my experience at the School of Law, when I have students that are graduating, I get people from different law firms, from different organizations, are interested in the first 10 well-performing students. And those 10 will get jobs as soon as they finish. And they are confident. But what about the rest? It becomes a problem because, like in Rwanda, considering what has happened, Gracier has mentioned, for example, language, of course, which begins from primary, secondary, and even to the university. You may not say you will have to master the language the few years you are at the university. It has to build from the base, from the grassroots. But also, I'm happy that now, like in Rwanda, they knew that this is a problem. And in the announcement made by the government, Rwanda is receiving 474 English language teachers from Zimbabwe, almost 500 teachers from Zimbabwe. The president went to Zimbabwe, negotiated, because there is this language barrier. Rwanda being formerly French-speaking, I think it has been affected. Now is tending to be more of English-speaking than before. So the issue of language has been there and leading to some of our students also not performing very well. And when they do not understand the law very well, then it leads to their lack of confidence in what they are doing as legal experts. But hopefully this one is also going to be an improvement in this area. There is something that has been mentioned also about mentorship. I think we do not have a well-defined way of mentoring our young lawyers. I think if someone has to do better in law or as a legal expert, you need to have someone, a person to emulate. And if you don't have this person, of course, you build on your way of understanding things, and it will take you much more time than if you had someone and the person you knew is your role model in law, and where you feel you need to have maybe a piece of advice, then this is the person that can help you. It doesn't have to be like you are building on the survival for the fittest, like Herbert Spencer puts it. You need to be having someone to say, this is how legal experts should behave. And if you are having a senior, even I know for example, in the law firms, or in the bar association, you are supposed to be having someone as your senior to guide you how things are done. But I do not know whether this is supervised, whether this is maybe questioned. How is it reported and so forth? The other thing that may be a challenge in academia is balancing the work of academics and other responsibilities. Having mentioned that you need to top up, for example, on your salary, because no paying job is going to be very high in academia, it comes to those who are in academia that they are not in a very good position to balance their responsibilities in academia and their other responsibilities. So there may be an issue again. You either have to concentrate if you are doing court work, for example, in a law firm, and when you are also having academic positions, you are lecturing, you are publishing, you are carrying out legal research. So the balance most of the time is an issue, especially maybe I consider like where you are practicing and where you are having your academic position. There is a geographical distance. You cannot be in court, for example, in the morning, and you are expected to be in a classroom in the afternoon. It becomes something that, when it comes to balancing, will also be a problem. But I would say people again should be in a position to concentrate on what is seen as the main job and what is seen as part-time. What comes to an issue or a matter is when the main job becomes a part-time job, and the part-time job occupies the person more than the full-time job. And of course, that one is affected by the need for economic development. Someone who has a case in court, and after which, for example, in Rwanda, most of these cases to go and plead for someone, you get around $500, which may be a salary for someone to earn in a full month. So it becomes a challenge. How do you go to concentrate on something that will lead to a full month pay that you would get in one day? So those are some of the challenges. But of course, my colleagues will add, and will also advise on how some of these challenges may be mitigated. There is something maybe I would add what you asked us to comment about is these new emerging areas. These new emerging areas, of course, need much attention in our academia. My colleague has mentioned that we are, for example, interested in carrying out curriculum review, which is very good. And when we are carrying out curriculum review, we are looking at the market, we are asking the society, the members of the society, what is going to be prioritized. We are asking legal experts, judges, we are asking prosecutors, we are asking organizations that are very close to legal knowledge. But we are also doing, for example, now I'm speaking from Amsterdam. I have been here since the 1st of July, and I will be here until October. which is one of the ways we get new knowledge by interacting and carrying out research with colleagues in academia. When I'm here and I leave this country after 3 months, and I'm on a day-to-day close interaction with my colleagues in the School of Law here at University of Amsterdam, Vrije Universiteit. Then I go with new knowledge, and if there is something even that is new, emerging, that has not even reached my country, I will be in a position to be with that information, and I can contribute, even whether it is towards prevention, whether it is towards, when it comes to looking for solutions. Again, as I have mentioned, for example, myself being part of the judiciary, being part of the prosecution, because I figure on both councils, then that is where we also get information on what is happening practically, and how we can also contribute as people from the academia. And this is also something that goes with the research. At the School of Law where I work, we carry out research, but the research we have also is informed by other pieces. Hello?
Dr. Bikesh, I'm sorry, I may have to interject at this point.
Okay.
Yeah, just kindly maybe wrap up in 30 seconds, and then we'll have Dr. Reza also answer the question. Thank you. Just
yeah, it's okay. Seconds. You can go ahead.
Okay, sorry for the interruption.
All right, thank you very much. I'll be very quick as well regarding the challenges in for young lawyers, young academicians, or those who want to choose academia. So I remember in my experience, like I shared, that I had mentors, and you see, when you're starting a new profession or a new line of professionalization within the law, you need to have a mentor. And mentorship is very key on being guided on how to teach, what to teach, how to carry out research. Is there anybody who can hold your hand? And many times we do not have that kind of individual to hold your hand. And so you get in there and you wonder, yes, I am interested in academia, but who is going to guide me? What railroads are there to help in this kind of situation? So that is very key. And I've seen some of my colleagues get into academia because they hope that the money will be helpful to get them into, to be able to get into a certain financial situation. And yet, as Dr. Bikesha has said, our financing in most academic institutions is not as fruitful as we hope it should be. But we are getting there, and we shall keep on lobbying for better. The second challenge that I see in academia for the young people is what is your vision for your life? What is your vision for your profession? What is it that you want to achieve? What is it that you want to be written on your headstone, on your tombstone when you die? Do you have a vision for this nation? Do you have a vision for the universities that you want to get into? Do you have a vision? And therefore, if you're joining academia, you must have a vision, you have a mission, and most importantly, you must have a value system. Because some of the challenges include things to do with corruption. You know, our society is no longer as honest as we think. So you are bombarded every day with people offering you money for marks. I'm not saying this has happened to me specifically, but I remember one time a student offered me fuel you know, fuel. And now with this fuel crisis, I remember that very clearly. A student said, I want to exchange one coursework script for another, and I'll give you fuel. I work for this big government entity, and I'm able to provide you with court cases so that you are able to argue these cases and make a lot of money. So please look the other way as I make these specific changes in my coursework. So those are real life changes. So real life challenges for a young person in academia. Yes, I know that young people want to drive the latest class of Benz. Are you patient enough to wait for it? You know, are you patient to work hard and get there? Or are you going to start moonlighting over 3-4 universities in order to accumulate enough money in order to achieve some of the challenges in life? Those are the challenges for the young lawyer. So the question that I would like to ask you listening to me, which is the question that I pose also in my book, We Don't Teach That at the University. The question that I ask you is, what is your true north? Meaning, what is your value system? Why do you do the things that you do? I know some of us went into the law because our parents, our uncles, our guardians pushed us into the law. Or some of you went into the law because you were told that there's a lot of money in the law. And when you get there, you realize that the law firms are not paying as beautifully as you had hoped. And that was the situation I had. And therefore, in looking for alternative income, you are told that there is a teaching opportunity at University X and University Y. And so you get in there. So, but what is your true north? What is your value system? Because even with some of these universities, you're going to be teaching members of parliament, you're going to be teaching people who want to fulfill a certain desire in their life. So I've taught current ministers, I've taught members of parliament, I've taught CEOs, I've taught commissioners. And so there is this real desire to get into their good books, to get some good money from them. And they are not ready to say no. They are ready and willing. Some of them are ready and willing. And I know some of my friends have fallen because of these temptations. Some have been caught, and some have not. When I say friends, I mean colleagues in the fraternity of academia. So we have to be very careful with those challenges. And maybe the other thing I should say is that the world is volatile. You saw what happened with COVID. The world is uncertain, and the world is complex, and the world is ambiguous. So you have to be very careful in this volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous world, or a VUCA world, with the challenges that come in. Are you ready to pay the price? Are you ready to be true to your call in academia? Are you prepared? But more so, the other challenge is public perception. You know, you're a lawyer, you have qualified, you've gone to great universities, and then people hear that you are just in academia. Is that enough? The public perception can be such a drag as well. And lastly, there is finances and politics, you know, vis-a-vis passion and purpose. Finances and politics vis-a-vis passion and purpose. You know, I must ask one of my professors that why are you teaching in a third world university, in a third world country, and yet you have the doors of Harvard and Oxford open to you? And he said to me, there is love for the country. That is what I will say. Thank you very much.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Bikesha and Dr. Ruweza, for that. Thank you for emphasizing the importance of mentorship and ensuring integrity throughout the career. So I'd like to go on to the last bit. We'll deal with 2 last questions before we get into the question and answer session. And I'd like to encourage members to keep on asking the questions. We'll deal with them in a bit. So the first question is on the role of young lawyers in human rights advocacy. Each panelist will have 3 to 4 minutes to answer that. And we can start with Dr. Mbuzukongira, then we'll go on to Dr. Bikesha and finish with Dr. Ruweza. So what is the role of young lawyers in human rights advocacy?
what is the role of young lawyers as far as human rights advocacy is concerned? Wow, I, I see myself having finished my LLB and moving. I was not having any case. So you move to prison. You find somebody who has been there, and quite frankly, the reason why they're there is because they do not know why they are there. And the role of young lawyers, who else will do this other than young lawyers? As far as human rights is concerned, I would have thought that it's a great opportunity in the human rights field. In the human rights field, I do not want to discuss the reporting mechanism and the reporting system, the advocacy, and all the techniques that comes with that. I still see it as being one of the areas that would offer or that would give more and much more to young lawyers, actually, much more than to senior lawyers. Why do I say that? One, senior lawyers, because they're senior lawyers, they are time constraint. But my case, probably my case and the DRC and the Zaire could be slightly different. But as far as reporting mechanism is concerned, I think young lawyers would play a much better role even than the senior counsel. What young lawyer is investigating, where a young lawyer is going, does not attract that much attention, and this is something I've seen in the DRC. Currently, I suffer limits that I didn't suffer then. As simple as look, you want to do an interview? No, if Gracia has gone to the village and met so and so, that's slightly different that it could have been with me when I was only having an LLB degree, and who knows where I go, what I'm investigating, what I want to report, what I want to write about. So the role, I still see that as primordial. I see what young lawyers can do that senior counsel cannot do. But Liz, maybe there was a very interesting question in our chat room. I'm not sure whether this is the time to jump into. So it was like, wow, the requirement on the number of years of expertise before one is recruited into the teaching profession. There are two sides of seeing it. One, like I could speak from the requirement of the TCU, the Tanzanian Commission for University, very familiar with their regulation for having participated into their making, which would rather another one, which is close to the year of experience, which is required. The requirement of the GPA, you need to be a straight A student to join the academia in Tanzania. And the number of years, I don't think this should worry anybody. For the senior position in the academia, obviously the requirements are high, and it cannot be otherwise. But as far as the position of tutorial assistant and assistant lecturer, even, nobody wants to hire a tutorial assistant who has 10 years or 5 years. No. Is the tutorial assistant is, and this is why I'm insisting that the time to join this career is now, because at that level, the years of experience actually is not a requirement, because that is where the question of mentorship comes in. The ideal situation is to recruit these young minds and try to see how you could mentor them into now becoming senior. So the question of years of experience should, as a matter of principle, should not be there. because we understand it as a recruitment point. Now, the DRC, because I have to speak about the DRC, the DRC was having another regulation which was not making sense, but we are going through a process of change now with the extension of a master's. With a master's, then the requirement isn't there. Thank you very much. I will pass the microphone.
Right, thank you. We can go on to Dr. Bikesha and then finish off with Dr. Lueza. You each have 3 minutes. And thank you, Dr. Gresby, for even answering that question.
Yeah, thank you, Elizabeth. Well, young lawyers, the first thing I see in them, the potential in using the technology. They are young because they weren't born before computer, BBC. And they have that opportunity, which is a big opportunity to reach many, but also reaching many in what they have communicated that should be sensible. It should be a good policy brief, for example. They can be interested in writing policy briefs so that policymakers can get guided, oriented on what they can do in terms of human rights, if there is a room to advocate, promote, and respect human rights. So these may be blogs, but also like many people have heard, I do not know what usually is termed as café juridique. Maybe Gracier may know the equivalent in English, but this is like where lawyers meet in a light moment. They can be meeting people that are even in decision-making seats, but in a light moment. So when they are discussing legal matters, the decision makers who are lawyers will also be interested in getting oriented by these young lawyers, and there are hot discussions depending on what is the order of the town, of the city. There is always a legal matter that is hot. People may be using social media, may be using Twitter, maybe using Facebook, but of course, what again I caution is the way we communicate. We shouldn't be very aggressive, especially when we are communicating to people that make decisions, which decisions may be even harsh in situations where what we have communicated is very controversial. The other way is writing in the academic journals. Our countries have academic journals. I bring them more towards the end because I know not very many decision makers will read like an academic article. But what we are supposed to do is, for example, if I have written an academic article, having a journal, the people that are managing these journals usually have to launch them like an issue. Well, this is what is usually done so that someone's idea is discussed. And when we are launching them, we bring people that may help in defending human rights, that may hear our advocacy in human rights and so forth. Then, as Gracier has mentioned, the academia is built in a way that whoever has a law degree, irrespective of the experience, will fit somewhere. It's a matter of ranks. that you find, for example, I have my law degree and I'm beginning, I'm a young lawyer, then I go and become a tutorial assistant without any other requirement, especially the requirement would be gauging the weight of your degree. Again, academia does not entertain degrees that have low performance. That would be the only difference. Otherwise, you are not going to be an assistant lecturer and then they say you need to be possessing a PhD or a tutorial assistant and they say you are supposed to be possessing a PhD. And of course, this should be attractive because in the academia, as long as you have joined with the first degree, LLB, then the possibilities that there are very high chances of getting a second degree in a reasonable time, because you are even encouraged and advised and assisted to have another degree, which can put you to another level of or another rank in the academia. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Dr. Bikesha and Dr. Ruweza and Dr. Francis for those wonderful comments. Time is not on our side, so you'll allow me go straight into the Q&A, if it's okay with you. Okay, someone is asking, this is Esther Cham. She's saying that I've recently picked interest in writing. However, I'm struggling with the publishing online area. Could you recommend free publishing websites that are easy to access? Maybe I don't know who would be willing to take that on.
Okay, I can say something, although I'm the one that has talked.
Okay, briefly then. Yeah.
But I think this is something that would need more information. One is to know which area, because there are some law journals. In fact, every law journal has an editorial line, and this is related to what you are writing. So you need to know the topic, the subject matter in the piece that has been written, and then someone would orient the person that maybe these people are in the area where you want to publish. And my second point is to caution people that are writing, because there are some people that are writing, they can even say, bring $100 US and we publish you a paper within a week. We publish you a paper within 2 weeks, bring $200 US. Those are predatory, and they are, as Gracia has mentioned, that would be receiving any rubbish and won't even give you any benefit, because even when we are looking at papers at the university, what you have published, it should be a published piece that is indexed. So whatever is not indexed will not earn you a point in terms of whether you are getting to another rank for promotion and so forth. So you would say, I have published something, but when it is predatory, then that means you have not something that can be defended by any legal academic, and it will be 0.0. So that is what I would comment on that.
Yes, so my view would be that, you know, South Africa has got quite a number of journals. You know, journal on African law, there's the Pretoria University Law Press, UNISA, University of South Africa. There are quite a number that you could just do a simple Google search on reputable journals, and then you could start from there. East African Journal of Peace and Human Rights, that is published at Makerere University, is also quite reputable. You could also pick one from your local university that you have. I know Nairobi has got a law journal, Strathmore, and others. There are quite a number. It just depends on what the call is. And even us right now, the East African Law Society, we have our East African journal on, I think it is law.
Rule of law.
Rule of law and human rights, yes. There is that as well, yeah. But maybe, Herman, if you wouldn't mind, I just wanted to chip in on the last issue where I just wanted to encourage young lawyers to innovate. However crazy your idea is, as long as it's an idea, test that idea. You just don't know where it will go, you know. So innovate. Test the new parameters. Those parameters may be virtual, and they may also be real. I remember I had a student here who decided to start a magazine, a law magazine at the university, at the School of Law, and I encouraged and supported him. He later on went to pursue his doctoral studies in literature. So law does not mean that if you've done a law degree, you shall stay within the legal parameters. You may have other options. I know many of our lawyers, our graduates here who we've recommended to do masters in business, and they have gone on to excel in masters in business. And some universities, especially in Europe, have started merging law with other professions. For example, the University of Kent does a degree in law and architecture, law and literature, you know, law, religion, and so on and so forth. So if you have a certain passion, you could pursue that line. And, you know, we have a young lawyer here in Uganda who's done a lot on ICT. So he's become a specialist in ICT in that regard. So that is something you could do, as well as I would encourage young lawyers to engage in public discourse, not just for the show, but because you're contributing to society. Lawyers are not only meant to make money, you know, they are also meant to make society better. So engage in public discourse. You know, when there is a new law coming in, put your views out there. I keep encouraging my students, write an opinion piece in the papers. You've got the material, you've got the authorities, you've got the legal research, which you can use to help society and help your members of parliament as they make decisions. You know, a lawyer should be able, a young lawyer should be able to have the number of at least 2-3 members of parliament that they can engage whenever anything is happening in parliament, so that you can be able to contribute to the discourse on a variety of issues, be they political or not political. So don't be too rigid with regarding the law. There's more to life than law. You can expand your horizons, and many times you find that those who have a law background, who engage in other spaces, have done amazing things. There's a gentleman who started an association, organization on food security, and he comes with his legal background and is able to engage pharmaceuticals. He's engaging farmers who are using pesticides that are causing damage to human beings, and so on and so forth. So innovate. I know that young people have amazing ideas they could push that way. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Rweza. I know you're in a hurry to go for another engagement, but before you go, there's someone who had asked you specifically in the chat on how to balance the practice of law and also lecturing. Because the person is saying to Dr. Rweza, my name is Kevin from Uganda. You talk of practicing law and also lecturing, but I've found this as one of my greatest distractions from effective teaching. What are some practical ways to balance this? Because as you said, we need the money. Maybe in a minute, Doctor, you could give us your insight on that.
Yeah, well, it is, light can never be balanced perfectly. There will be seasons where things go one way or the other. So, I mean, so it depends on what matter is available before you. My advice would be that have a team of people that you can work with. have a team of people that you can work with. That has helped me quite a lot. I have had cases, even when I was away recently, I had some cases going on, but because you have a team of people, friends that you can call up, that's why in the book that I write, we don't teach this at the university. I talk about your network is your net worth. Your network is your net worth. You know, are there lawyers that you can call upon to stand in for you when you have a certain matter that you need to deal with? Because some of these clients are person to holder. They want it to be you and only you to help represent them in certain matters. But you know, you can still have a team of lawyers, a team of friends, a team of colleagues who can stand with you in time of need, and then you have a way to share whatever fees are available. Man is not an island. We have to keep on working together. So that would be my advice in that situation whereby you deal with individuals who can associate with you and support you and help you in that regard. That's how you start balancing. That's how you start balancing academia with legal practice. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Daktari. Maybe I don't see any other questions in the chat. Elizabeth, is there any other question you see? I could, unless I'm missing them. Most of the questions have been answered.
Yes, I believe all the other questions were answered even as the panelists were going on. So I guess at this point in time, because of time, the panelists can give us their closing remarks and then we'll close the session. So we can start with Dr. Mbuzukongira. Can you have your closing remarks?
Sorry, if you would allow me so that I can attend to a panel hearing, I just want to take over from Dr. Graciu, just to say that this has been an amazing time to engage. We should do this again. Academia is a great place to be, and like Dr. Wamaru, I think, said, if knowledge is something that gets you excited, you like not only to acquire knowledge, but also to share it. This is a good space. I've enjoyed acquiring knowledge and then sharing it with members of the judiciary so that this can improve and support their work. As academicians, as an academic, I've been able to go into spaces where you can have a tete-a-tete, a one-on-one with policymakers, members of parliament, with judges, with leaders of the bench, politicians, and that is because of the unique space that academia plays in society. So if you want to be a change agent in your society, especially from the basis of the law, I would encourage as many of us as possible to join the academia. And remember, some of us within the next 10, 15 years, we shall be living and we need new people to come in. And this is the time for you to join in, get mentored, and so that society moves on. Thank you very much, and may the Lord bless you.
Right, thank you. Dr. Mbuzukongira has connectivity issues, so we'll finish off with Dr. Bikesha.
Yeah, thank you so much. Of course, my closing remarks mainly will be to thank the East African Law Society for organizing this and for inviting us and myself in particular. And also for those that have participated, because the inviting is one thing and getting the participants is also another important thing. We could be having the speakers, but without the participants, that would be meaningless. To the participants, the young lawyers, I want to, as my colleague has mentioned, I want to encourage them to be part of academia. It doesn't mean, I should note this, it doesn't mean that you should be registered somewhere as a teaching or an academic staff, but it means you are involved in the three activities we have mentioned. You are involved in the education, you are involved in the research, and you are involved in the publication or in scholarship. And this, of course, will be to promote the innovation we have talked about. In fact, if I can finalize by quoting this person called Herman Melville, he says, and I quote, "It is better to fail in originality than to succeed in imitation." So in academia, what we are promoting is innovation. You may fail today, and the failure would be a lesson to you, and tomorrow it will be your success. So it's better to fail in originality than to succeed in imitation. Thank you so much.
Right. Thank you so much, Dr. Ruweza, Dr. Amwari in absentia, as well as Dr. Mbuzu-Kongira in absentia, Dr. Bikesha as well, for your time this afternoon. We don't take it for granted. You've shared a lot of knowledge and jogged our minds on the opportunities in academia and as well as in research. And we hope that more young lawyers will be joining the academic profession, even in writing and publishing. So I'd also like to thank all the members who joined us today, those who logged in and followed to the end, my co-host as well, Mr. Herman Taire, and the entire Young Lawyers Committee for organizing this webinar, as well as the East Africa Law Society Secretariat for giving us the platform to have this conversation. We hope to do this more often, and thank you.